It wasn't a fun week. Did you see Raw this past Monday night? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. We had wrestling. And there wasn't, there was an hour of actual quality programming on from both promotions. Did you see Raw? Did you watch Raw? Did you care about Raw?
I'm not sure, because this is one of those weeks where if you ask me, I want to say no, I didn't. And I'm sure as you start recapping things, I'm going to go, I kind of remember something like that.
Yeah, it seems like, well, on Monday night, I just want to, I've made some measurements here and jotted some things. But Monday night's Raw, this was May the 30th, Memorial Day. They started strong, big-time Becky Lynch. One of the better heel promos in the WWE, male or female. She does a great job with this material that they write, but she makes it sound like she's actually kind of saying it, or it's what she believes, rather than just the recitation that they mostly get. But she's talking about Oscar again, and they showed, remember when she said, when I went to go create life like the God I am. When she went to have a baby, she gave the belt to Oscar in the case, right? But that was all part of her plan, Smithers. She was going to give it to Oscar, and she'd go off and have the baby, then come back and beat Oscar for it because she figured Oscar's good enough to beat everybody else but her, that type of thing. But then here comes Oscar's music, and out she comes, and I was actually interested in the interview until Oscar. And again, the speaking and the screeching. She came out in the coat of many colors that Kramer wore on that episode of Seinfeld. And I just can't take the speaking. And we've talked about this. And you can't figure out a way to talk me out of it. I can't.
You've talked me into it. You've talked me into it, because once you see that, you realize how ridiculous it is. I still think she's a good wrestler. I think she's one of the better women wrestlers in the world. And she's really good. But yeah, this is cringy stuff. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
So then Bianca comes out, and bear in mind, we're having a three-way. We're having a triple threat match on the pay-per-view that is airing this weekend on the Cock. And I guess if anybody, I'm not even willing, for the convenience of on-screen fast forward, to pay money for this pay-per-view this weekend. We'll watch it on the Cock and talk about it on the Drive-Thru this week. But they're having a three-way. So they do this interview, and then it sets up Bianca against Oscar with Becky on color. And then Becky ends up interfering and beats up both of them at the end of the thing. It was 30 minutes into the show with just these three girls doing the promo, doing the match, and an angle so they can come back and have 20 more minutes on the pay-per-view to do the same thing we've been watching them do for the past several weeks. It's like there's 8 different people in the WWE, and they're all handcuffed to each other. So that was 30 minutes of my life. We had the Mysterios and Ezekiel against Gable and Otis and Kevin Owens. So they just re-signed Kevin Owens for a couple $1 million a year, if we're to believe that. And he's stuck in this 6-man. I remember when if you paid somebody a couple $1 million, you kind of got a main event fucking star for your money. They're paying $2 million to stick guys in mid-card 6-mans. So then Cody, thankfully, at least we got something here to look at. He does an in-ring promo about Seth because they're going to have a Hell in a Cell match. The thing that Cody Rhodes can't control, he has pitched his idea, his presentation, his outfit. Vince has signed off on everything, didn't even need to get the tattoo dermabrazed. But what he can't control is being on a show that's 3 hours long and everything else about it is dreary as shit. And so, it's a segment. And again, they've had 2 matches. They've interacted every week since before WrestleMania, or right before WrestleMania when they started this thing. Cody does the promo, saying that he saw potential in Seth Rollins instantly, and so did his father in NXT. And that's true, actually, and so did Tom Pritchard. For that matter, so did I in Ring of Honor. I talked to him when Tyler Black left Ring of Honor and went to NXT, and I was afraid he would languish there in obscurity until he got fed up with the wrestling business and quit like a lot of other people did. I asked Tom one time, he'd been down there for months and months, and I said, what the fuck are they doing with Tyler Black? Why is he down there? He can perform, he can go, he's new, he's fresh. He couldn't get out of the indie habits and do what they'd asked him to do. And I think he was still slapping his leg. And so it was rocky, but everybody who knew wrestling saw something in Seth Rollins. Anyway, Cody does the promo, and basically he couldn't return with a loss. He didn't return with a loss. Now he's beat Seth twice, and both times he was the better man, and it drove Seth crazy. Have you noticed, Brian, they do not what Cody Rhodes on this? They whatted everybody else that tried to speak on this show. They don't what. Part of it is because he doesn't use that many periods, and sometimes he's smart and puts them in the middle of a sentence where it wouldn't make any sense to ask what after the statement he made, but they're listening to him. They're not listening to these other guys because the other guys, they're slow, they're not confident, they're being made to perpetrate lackluster material, and the fans are amusing themselves. With Cody, they're listening. Or am I just imagining that?
Cody's the one guy who, when he does a promo, works himself into a sweat. And I think people appreciate that there. And he's saying different things, and he's interesting compared to everyone else.
I do say, and I know there's air conditioning in the big buildings, but I don't remember. I was on a lot of Raws, and I've been in a lot of big buildings. I don't remember ever doing a live TV interview that I did not break a sweat. Ever. Wintertime, summertime, whatever. But a lot of these people, they're probably just scared somebody's going to hear them, and they're ashamed of the material. Anyway, here comes Seth. And now he's coming down from the bleachers in Jim Barnett's smoking jacket. And he talks for quite a while. He finally gets to a point, but it took him a significant amount of time to get there. But he makes the point that Cody left because he wasn't good enough, and his little friends, and he tried to tear down what Seth Rollins was building over in the WWE, but it didn't work, so he came back to fulfill the family destiny. So they are in a backhanded way acknowledging Cody's little hiatus from the company. Seth's promo, the bone of contention, the point there, it wouldn't have been bad if it wasn't for the unnatural acting and the affectations and the laughing and the Joker character thing.
He just has to yell out, "I'm on dust," and it'll all make sense.
But they've got a nice little rivalry, and the matches have been good. And if Seth just, whatever, they've got him acting like that. But anyway, so Cody dares Seth to come to the ring, and Seth comes to the rail and says, not today, and turns around to walk out. But Cody goes after him in the arena, catches him, beats him up, spears him through the barricade. Here come the referees and the agents. We got to see Shane Helms and Adam Pearce, Sean Daivari. Love Daivari, great guy. Glad to see he's got gainful employment. And they get Cody to the back, and Seth is blowed up, and then here comes Cody back out for the that was a great touch, and it kept the people up. Cody knows how to do a pull apart. You don't just get in a fucking clump and throw fake punches until people get in the middle of you. There's the pulling apart, and there's the breaking loose, and there's the sweetening it. And so the people chanted, "This is awesome" for a pull apart. When's the last time you heard that from anybody? And I know "this is awesome" gets thrown around way too easily these days with a lot of shit that ain't awesome, but normally you don't get it for but they were excited in the arena here because look at what they have set through. The first hour of this program was 30 minutes with the girls, and then the 6-man mid-card, and now they're finally seeing some stars. But go ahead.
I saw this. This had to be from Cody because, and I'm not saying that in a bad way at all because this was really good. This reminded me a lot of when Cody and his guys confronted Jericho in the inner circle in the press box in the crowd. They wouldn't come down, so Cody said, we'll come up to you. And he went through the crowd, and it gets a great reaction. And this stood apart from everything else on the show.
And then, since they'd given us stars, they decided, no, not too much of that. And we go to Alexa Bliss versus Dewdrop. Again, and I guess Alexa Bliss, is she the one going to be in a movie? They've said coming up, one of them's going to be in a movie. She should consider that as a second career. I would say she's a great actress. As a wrestler, this looked like, if it was guys, it would have been Rey Mysterio versus Mark Henry without the talent. Dewdrop's 350 pounds. Alexa Bliss is 75. Then we got a Miz TV segment with the Street Profits. And that degenerated into the 24/7 bullshit segment where 8 to 10 people, including a couple of the girls, are in there trying to win or retain the 24/7 comedy belt. And people, there are writers that are paid and to actually come up with shit to put on the air, and they do this. So then we were an hour and 45 minutes into the show, and we got Tommaso Ciampa against Mustafa Ali. And I said, at this point, Cody and Seth were dressed in street clothes. So Tommaso Ciampa was the first guy on the program who looked and acted like a pro wrestler. In shape, serious, good work, lean, mean, slick, and quick. And they rushed through all of this because they had very little time. And the fans didn't care because they're not featured. So Ciampa's work is almost impeccable. He dominated NXT. He's been brought here and presented as a mid-card flunky for whatever reason. And Theory was on color and sounded okay. But basically, after a few minutes, Ali makes a comeback, hits a big dive, and then Theory pulls his fucking leg, and the referee calls for a DQ. And then Theory jumps on Ali and gets big heat on him while Ciampa had completely disappeared and was never seen again or referred to. Remember back when this shit made sense? If a heel jumped in and got another heel disqualified for kicking the shit out of the babyface, they would at least join together since the guy was down. I'm mad because I just been wrestling the guy. You're mad at him because it's your program. Let's both kick the shit out of it. But no, Ciampa disappears. It's like they've got a trap door under the ring. So 2 hours into the show, I've liked Cody and Seth Rollins and Tommaso Ciampa, and they're burying him. But they go to the break because it ain't over. They come back from the break, and Theory is still in the ring, still kicking the shit out of Mustafa Ali through the whole break, which that's not only what we're led to believe, that's what the announcers actually say. And then the referee asked Ali if he wants to start the match. And they do. For the U.S. title, Austin Theory against Mustafa Ali. I thought there was only 8 or 9 people on there. There's only 7 on this show. So they start a match. Ali took a big backdrop. Nice to see that. Theory got a smidge of heat on him. Ali fought back, and then Theory hit his finish, pinned him 1, 2, 3 in 2 minutes. What are they doing? Did you see any of this?
No, thankfully.
All right. So in that case, just in case you're keeping track, Tommaso Ciampa versus Mustafa Ali. Ciampa loses by DQ and disappears. Theory beats the shit out of Mustafa Ali for 5 or 6 minutes straight. Then they start a match. Then Theory beats him in 2 minutes. And then Adam Pearce comes out. And guess what he did, Brian? He added a rematch to the pay-per-view this weekend between Austin Theory and Mustafa Ali. So we get to see it again.
Let me ask you a question.
Please do.
an hour and a half, whatever it was, an hour 45 into this show, when the Cody Rollins segment aired, if you were a fan sitting there trying to think of the roster in your head and you realized who could possibly be coming up for the remainder of the show, with the likelihood it won't be either Seth or Cody, why would you stay at that point?
Well, that's a good question, and I have no answer for it, because they ain't no Brock Lesnar, they ain't no Roman Reigns, they ain't no Paul Heyman. Starting to get thin. But you will know that they did give us something to look forward to, because immediately after they signed that rematch of the match that we didn't want to see the first time around, Matt Riddle, in the hallway dressed as Evel Knievel, is teaming up with Shaky Nakamura later on in the program against the Usos. So we got that going for us. As a matter of fact, it was up next. And I didn't watch it because Shaky makes me nervous, Riddle makes me nauseous, and giraffes flew out of his ass tonight. So again, and I watched a little bit of this, and you know something else that to me hurts these WWE matches, and a lot of people may not think about this, I've mentioned it before, but it just hit me again. AEW is using a regular ring. And it sounds like a regular ring. The WWE uses that fucking, yes, I did get them to change the construction so that it had a little more give and bumps a little better, but then Kevin Dunn got into them again and muffled, they actually wrap, or at least they did at the time, maybe they've got a higher tech way to do it now, but they would wrap blankets in between the metal support beams so that when somebody took a body slam or a bump or just whatever, it wouldn't go bam, it goes boom, boom. Because Kevin Dunn, a.k.a. Bucky Beaver, said the ring was too loud for the microphones. It didn't sound good on television. So unless these guys are taking on the WWE programs, unless they're taking a superplex off the top rope, you get no noise out of the ring. You get no bam on a bump or bam on a fucking, anybody. I mean, I've laughed before that the girls are so light they can't make any noise in the ring, and that's true for some of the girls, even in an AEW ring or a regular wrestling ring. But you can't hear anything. It's like it's not happening. You've watched wrestling for 30-something years, Brian. The bam adds to the bump. It adds to the impact. It adds to the presentation of the whole thing. And the WWE is just poof. Now that I've said that, are you going to be able to unsee that?
Probably not. Perhaps the ring sound was interfering with the fake crowd noise.
That might be possible, because the fake crowd can get loud at times. We don't want it to be anyway. So, herein is what we're going home on Raw, big boy. I timed this because at first I was watching it and I said, wait a minute, I've lost track of what's supposed to be going on here. And then I had to back up and make notes. Okay, at 10:15 Eastern time on Raw, Liv Morgan makes her entrance into the arena and is introduced by the ring announcer for her match, right? From 10:15 to 10:16.
Okay.
That's what happens. Then they go to the break. She's on her way to the ring. That's 3 minutes. They come back from the break and they show a package on Titus O'Neil at the Indy 500. And they recap what Theory did earlier in the night and the match being added to the pay-per-view. Then they go to a backstage promo from Mustafa Ali where he says a couple of things and he's jumped from behind by Theory and has the shit kicked out of him again. And Theory takes a selfie with him. And then they go back to the announce desk where the announcers sell the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view matches. And then we go back to the ring where we see Liv Morgan standing in the ring and Rhea Ripley's music starts. It's now 10:25 Eastern. Liv has been standing in the ring for 10 minutes. But here comes Ripley. But guess what, Brian? Ripley's on the way to the ring. We go to a break. We come back, and we have the Money in the Bank spot where they say that it will now be held in the intimate confines of the MGM Grand Arena.
Is that how they put it?
Intimate confines is a quote. Yeah, the intimate confines of the MGM Grand where you can shoot deer in the balcony if it's a bad house. Then they do an announcer stand-up and promo about it being Memorial Day, and they pitch to a Memorial Day package on the military and service people and etc., and come back to the crowd, who's now chanting USA, USA, and the bell rings to start the match. Guess what time?
Now, what time did you say Liv Morgan came out? Was it 10:15?
Liv Morgan's music started playing, and she made her entrance into the arena at 10:15.
What time did the actual match start?
The bell rang to start the match at 10:34.
Wow! Oh my God!
19 minutes!
That's incredible.
19 minutes after the entrance. And by the way, now we get to the match. So let's just examine this. 19 minutes to get them there. And they had a big girl, little girl. I always say big man, little man match. Well, it's a big girl, little girl match. If this was 1930s Hollywood, Rhea Ripley would be Joan Crawford and Liv Morgan would be Zazu Pitts. And Dale Spear will be the one human being in the world laughing right now. They've been fighting every week. Liv Morgan does not grow on me. She's too girly to be a wrestler. Rhea Ripley has to not only bend over backward, but has to do the limbo to make it believable that Liv Morgan is hanging in there with her, right? So they go to 3 minutes they do 3 minutes of match, and then they go to another break, and they're a break for 3 minutes. So when they come back, AJ Styles and Damian Priest are at ringside for their respective girls, and Rhea Ripley's getting some heat on Liv. There wasn't a lot of action, because what's she going to do? She's holding her in a hold, because what's she going to do? Every time Liv Morgan tries to fire up, it's awkward. And how many different ways can Rhea Ripley beat up this tiny little girl? The best thing about Liv's comeback was Rhea Ripley taking a hell of a bump through the buckles into the post and to the floor. But finally, Priest interfered and AJ attacked him. And Ripley got distracted. And Morgan did a roll-up. They did a do-si-do and a roll-up. And the referee goes down for the count. 1, 2, and holds up the 3. There was no kick out. The bell rang. Liv Morgan rolled up and raised her hands. The fans cheered. And I guess that was it. So the finish was Liv Morgan winning on a 2 count because the referee got flummoxed, and it was one of the female referees. She couldn't. I guess she didn't think that was the finish. I don't know what the fuck happened. But they just went on with it. So they couldn't have had a better camera shot of a 2 count if they'd have tried, if it had been written into the show. So what we had, that match ended, by the way. Oh, and then Priest beat up AJ, and then Finn Balor came out and beat up Priest, but then Liv Morgan beat up Ripley, but then AJ and Finn beat up Priest because they're having a 6-person tag at the pay-per-view. So that whole thing was over with at 10:45. A 30-minute segment, 30 minutes from the time that Liv Morgan's entrance started till the time that this fight was over with, was 8 minutes of match, 9 minutes of commercials, and 13 minutes of other stuff. Can't wait for that 6-person tag at the pay-per-view we're not going to pay for.
Sounds
Did
terrible.
you see any of that?
I did not see any of that. I tapped out after Cody and Seth.
You mean you missed the contract signing?
Yes. I don't even know what contract you're talking about. Yes.
The big main event? Well, what other contract signing can there be with a match of this magnitude coming up this weekend on the pay-per-view, Brian? The contract signing for the handicap match with Bobby Lashley against almost an MVP.
Oh my God, I forgot about these guys.
And Adam Pearce is hosting it. They got the table in the ring. They got the chairs in the ring. Has poor Adam Pearce not learned yet? Remember when every once in a while for a major title match or a big grudge match, you'd get the contract signing and it was something memorable and you'd do a little angle? How many contract signings have we seen on WWE television in just the last few months?
There's been a lot, I think.
A lot.
Yeah.
What happens every time? They go to sign the contract. They either sign it or they don't sign it. But one way or another, the table gets turned over. The chairs get tossed out. They get in a fight. Right? Every single fucking time.
Yeah.
Well, good. Now you know what happened. They had 6 minutes left on the air when this segment started. So they apparently had a lot of faith in it. And MVP shamed Lashley verbally for all that he did for him. And then Lashley has done this, and a brutal beating waits for him on Sunday. And the fans started whatting MVP. And it's not MVP's fault, but nobody cares about this because Almost is an anchor around the neck of everybody that's interacting with him. So then Lashley and MVP bickered a little bit. And Lashley signed the contract, and MVP tries to get Almost to attack Lashley because they're running out of airtime. And hey, all right, go do it. Well, Lashley picks the desk up and throws it out of the ring. And then Almost starts tossing security out. So it went from, okay, we're signing this contract to now it's a major brawl with furniture being thrown instantly. It escalated unreasonably quickly, right? Because there was no idea here. There was no fresh concept or anything that could be said to justify having this contract signing. They had to check the box that they were promoting this match, and they did it the same way as they do every other match. So nothing was said here that was earth-breaking or earth-shaking or groundbreaking. Nothing was advanced here. They filled some time. And both guys threw all the security members over the top rope, which now that's been between Wardlow and everything else. Now they're even doing a rib on AEW television. There's a class action suit filed by the fake lawyer Mark Sterling on behalf of the goddamn security company. Cedric came in, got on Bobby Lashley, but I don't know. Then my DVR froze. Right as Almost was going to get on Lashley and MVP got on him, the DVR froze because they were out of time. I don't know what the fuck. But that was that. Closing thoughts on Raw. 3 hours.
Yeah, so was the review, it seemed like, and it wasn't. I mean, that's the problem with Raw. You can't even talk about it without getting tired, and I'm assuming a lot of people got tired, a lot of people fell asleep, and a lot of people the next day woke up needing a good, healthy breakfast to recover from the debauchery that they witnessed on Monday Night Raw.
Well, actually, I think a lot of people needed psychiatric assistance and some black tar heroin to get over that program. But I see where you were going with that, Brian, and I will see your good night's sleep and healthy breakfast, and I will raise you the way to have that healthy breakfast. Because that healthy breakfast always emanates from our fine friends at Magic Spoon. Folks, one of our favorite sponsors, one of the OGs of the sponsoring groups and entities that permeate our programs, and one of our favorites of the Cult of Cornette listeners, Magic Spoon, because everybody likes to eat. Everybody likes to eat stuff that tastes good, and everybody likes to eat stuff that's good for you. And you don't usually find all those things intersecting, but you do with Magic Spoon. They got the flavors you love, but without all the bad stuff, whether it's breakfast, whether it's using it as trail mix throughout the day or a midnight snack right before bed, whether you just want to eat a handful of it, whether you want to pour it in a bowl and then pour some milk on it. I like it with the Sprite Zero and maybe a couple of cubes of ice. But whatever the case, however you ingest this miracle ingredient, there's no carbs, there's no sugar, 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. 140 calories a serving. There's no keto. There's no gluten. There's no grain. There's no soy. There's just taste. And otherwise than that, it's pixie dust. I don't know where they get that. They must get this shit out of Tinkerbell's ass. But regardless, right now, You can build your own box with flavors available including cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cookies and cream, maple waffle, blueberry, cinnamon, and the newly reformulated honey nut flavor. Put a little nut in your honey. It's always a fine time for everyone. Folks, right now, go to magicspoon.com, get that custom bundle, pick the flavors you like, and all you got to do is use the promo code JIM at checkout. You'll save $5 off. Again, that's magicspoon.com/JIM. Use the code JIM to save $5 off. And, of course, the 100% happiness guarantee. They want you to have such a smile on your face, they'll have to wipe it off with a sandblaster. If you don't like this cereal for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. And after you get that money back, just make sure you don't leave the house for a few weeks because they'll probably still be looking for you. If you do leave the house, don't take the money in your pocket because people have been known to be pickpocketed in dark alleys after they've strong-armed their money back on a fair transaction. But anyway, they'll do it pleasantly, won't they, Brian? You know, you even eat your Magic Spoon in coffee.
I don't do that. I like to nibble on it. I grab little bits of it, I throw it in my mouth, and I put a big smile on my face as I chew.
Well, put it in your mouth and suck on it, folks. Magicspoon.com/Jim. Use the code Jim to save $5 off. You'll suck all the fake sugary goodness off the cereal. And it even turns your tongue bright, happy colors. You'll just be happy. Magicspoon.com/Jim.
You'll be happy, unlike if you watched wrestling this week.
All righty. Well, take a big drink of your coffee, Brian. You have some coffee now to wake you up, get you in the mood.
Yeah, Suzanne got me my coffee because I've been busy recording, but this is not what I usually drink, so I don't know.
Oh, it's an off-brand coffee?
No, it's the same brand. It's just she used words I guess I've never used when ordering a coffee, and it resulted in whatever I have here.
What kind of words do you need to give me a coffee?
Here's what I typically get.
Or sugar. How many words does that take?
Here's what I typically get at Starbucks. I'll say, can I have a venti skim blonde cappuccino with an extra shot of espresso and 3 sugars? Get a lot of caffeine. It'll taste good.
What, you ever say that again?
A venti skim blonde cappuccino with an extra shot of espresso and 3 sugars.
That sounds like a police description of a fucking suspect. I don't even understand most of those words. What are you getting? Give me a cup of coffee, cream and sugar, or both, or neither.
Well, the suspect in my hand says venti cappuccino brev, 3 sugar, triple, no skim milk. I don't know what the hell brev is, and let alone it's not blonde.
Did you get that coffee from our friends at Code Academy?
I did not get it from Code Academy.
That sounds like some of the stuff you've learned to write at that. Anyway, so drink it down. I need a tag here in a few minutes. Anyway,